cooking for each other once a week and like doing new recipes. Because I was just like, we don't like, I don't cook enough, and I don't have like, when I do, it's like a rotation of 3 or 4 things. So I need to like just find some new recipes and
Bro.
Sorry, I'm a minute or two late. Wash was in here chatting with me, and then I had to finish writing an email to a very irresponsible student about their time management. So, okay, let's get attendance. Everybody's here, which is great. David, Trinae, Aria, Marilyn, Victoria, and Kyla. Perfect. All right. So, first thing, if any of you guys write poetry and want to read any for a poetry slam that my colleague Miss Sale is doing with her English 1 classes, think about that and let me know. They're going to do it next Thursday, the 4th, during 1st, 3rd, and 7th period. So if you're at all interested in that, basically you just miss like the first 10 minutes of each of those class periods, and then read your poems and then go to your classes. So the point of doing that basically is that she's doing this with her kids, and some of them are definitely like very hesitant to read, obviously. I mean, they're like 8th and 9th graders, so they're very hesitant to read, and getting some older students and or teachers involved to read their stuff is, you know, hopefully kind of encouraging to them. I'm probably going to read something. Sorry, my camera is kind of gross. There we go, much better. So just let me know if you're interested in that, or you can even email her. Give me just 1 second here. Okay, so today I think I have published. I've at least uploaded, if not published. Modules. I did publish. Okay, so what I put on Canvas today is a self-editing checklist, sort of, and I just want to walk through that with you guys for a second here. Did I close it? Possibly I did. Okay. This kid that I was talking to about his time management emailed me earlier today and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize this thing was due, blah, blah, blah." Any scolding about time management is encouraged and appreciated. And I think he regrets that now. He was like, "I will very fearfully let you know if I have any more questions." Funny. Okay, so I've opened this thing on my own computer, so I'm going to share my screen with you and then just go through this. And after we go through it, I'm just going to give you guys the rest of today to work on your essays, which are due tonight. But this is definitely a thing that, like, if you think you're done, or even, you know, think about it as we go through it. And if you're noticing things that you haven't done or that you need to hone or tweak a little bit, this is a good checklist for that kind of thing. I do not know where Germanna Community College is, for the record, but I found this online a couple of years ago and I think it's really good. So kind of in the structure sort of realm, are all of your transitions from one idea to another smooth and clearly explained so that the reader doesn't need to make any leaps in logic? And a good example of that would be like the narrowing down for from your hook to your thesis. Has all slang and conversational language been removed? The exception being a personal narrative where that kind of language might be appropriate. And you might remember going over the 10, the top 10 essay mistakes to avoid earlier on in the year. That was one of them, and that includes like lots of exclamation points, things that sound like you're texting your friends, words that you wouldn't usually say in front of a teacher or your grandma. Have you removed any offensive language such as gender-based or biased language? And I doubt that you guys would have any offensive language. Do your verb tenses match the academic discipline of the assignment? Probably yours are going to. Present tense, we know that. Are your verb tenses consistent? That could be a thing that you might want to go back over. Sometimes people just like they're writing in present tense and then all of a sudden they fall into past tense and then come back. So just make sure that your tenses are consistent. It's just good advice to look through, and if you have a lot of to be verbs like be, been, is, are, were, was, are there stronger verbs you could be using? And that's just to kind of take your paper to a more sophisticated level. Are you using active verbs? We'll probably go over some more passive and active verb stuff a little later. And there's definitely some IXL exercises we can do for that, because passive and active is a thing that messes up even adult writers. So it can be tough, but basically active is when your subject is doing the verb, and passive is when the subject is having the verb done to them. Formatting wise, I gave you guys an example paper that I wrote in college to kind of check your formatting against it. Are the margins, page numbers, titles, line spacing? You don't have any bibliographic information for this one, but is it all in MLA format? Do you have an interesting title rather than just argumentative essay? You're probably not going to have any quotes in this. You certainly did not have to have quotes. So, if you do have quotes or if you've used other sources, you'll want to double check. But again, you really didn't have to. That's more after we start synthesis stuff, which will be week after next once Q3 starts. And I'm looking forward to that because my two favorite essays that y'all write of the year are both synthesis essays, and the first one will be coming up like quite soon. But just keep all this stuff in mind. If you did use any quotes, if you used any outside sources, wow. Yeah, I thought this is the second page. We'll go back to page 1. Grammar and mechanics. If there are lists within sentences, make sure that they're parallel. Parallel structure is another one that we will definitely have to work on. And people, I'm just going to warn you, people hate learning about parallel structure. But 3 years ago, I had a student say, I hated that you made us learn that, but then now that I know what it is, I notice it all the time. So it was actually useful and worth it. Pronoun antecedent agreement. Is your paper free of fragments and run-on sentences? Is your paper properly punctuated? Spelling errors. Have you read through your paper out loud? That's definitely one that I always recommend in order to catch errors that you would miss otherwise. Reading it out loud is super helpful. Okay, let's go back to the top. All of this stuff is basically just about your introduction, but it's all super important, especially for an AP essay. Are you starting with a sentence that grabs the reader's attention, like a hook? Does it contain a thesis that's a clear summary of your paper's main point or argument? Is your thesis arguable? Meaning it shouldn't just be a fact. You need to take a stance on something. Does your thesis match your assignment? Do you talk about the thing you said you were going to talk about? Is it easy to find? Does your thesis provide a clear outline for the entirety of your paper? And does your thesis answer a question? That being said, a thesis should never be written as a question, even though Dominic Ciccarelli tried real hard to make that happen for a while. Does the topic sentence of each body paragraph summarize the entirety of the points that paragraph covers? I'm not as hot on topic sentences as some people are, just because I feel like when we start doing like topic sentence, rest of paragraph, transition, topic sentence, but I feel like it gets a little bit formulaic, and I think you guys are more fluent writers than that. But that being said, it should be clear what you're talking about in each paragraph. Does each body paragraph appear in the same order presented in your thesis statement? Like if you said you were going to talk about 1, 2, and 3 things, then probably your first paragraph should be the first thing you said you were going to talk about. Your second paragraph should be the second thing you said you were going to talk about, etc. Who in the world was that? Some absolute stranger just passed by my door. Is there an intruder? He's probably an internet guy. Is the final sentence in each body paragraph a sentence that either summarizes the paragraph or transitions to the next point? And again, that's just kind of reinforcing those transitions so that we don't have to make any sudden leaps in logic. And then kind of entire paper stuff. This is a thing that we like to do a lot, just like as humans. And for some reason, I feel like particularly Americans, we like to kind of like apologize for our opinions a little bit. Even the fact that I just said a little bit, that's an example of it. Like, say what you want to say, stand firm by your opinions. And if there are words like probably, might be, somewhat, or kind of, how can we get rid of those and make it seem like you're really actually asserting your opinion and not backing away from it, not trying to, spare anyone's feelings if they don't agree with it. And that's what those kinds of words do. Have you removed any unnecessary words that don't add to the sentence, like really or a lot? I take a little bit of issue with this one. Have you varied your vocabulary by using a thesaurus and dictionary when necessary? Yeah, you don't want to say the same words over and over and over, but sometimes it's very obvious when people have looked at a thesaurus. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. Sometimes I've got a word on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. And if I know a similar word, I'll look up that word's synonyms and I'm like, oh yes, this is the word I meant. Because words just have very slightly different shades of meaning. And it's important to use the right word. And lastly, are your sentences of varied length and complexities? A paper stronger when it has a mixture of sentences versus all short sentences or all long sentences? One thing that I struggle with when I'm writing creatively, like if I'm writing a story, that's one of the things I struggle with, because I'll want to be like, she did this, he did this, she said this, he said this, they went here. And you can't just do that every single time. You need to switch it up a little bit, because otherwise it gets very boring and kind of wooden to read. So you don't have to fill this out. This is not an assignment. This is actually just to help you. And it's published on Canvas. This is, once you've got your paper primarily written and you feel like you just kind of want to take a second glance over and make sure that you've done the best job you could, just kind of go through that list and hold it up against your paper and think about whether you accomplish those things as much as you can. So that's all that we're going to do for today. I want you guys to spend this time working on your essays, but also do not forget that by Wednesday, we should have finished In Cold Blood, because we're going to talk about the rest of the book on Wednesday, and then we'll do some other stuff with it, but next week we will have a test on it. So that being said, if you want to leave, do this independently, you certainly can. Victoria has pieced right out, as is her custom. If you want me to look at any of your stuff, or if you have any questions about any part of your essay, formatting, anything, I'll be here until 2:09. So just let me know.